Greetings. Welcome to the Captive Desk. Hello, everybody in the chat. Good to see you. Mike, welcome. Good to see you.
Hey. I was coughing. I hope didn't catch that. But.
No, it automatically mutes everything when the little intro plays there. You know it. I don't know. Was it glitching for everybody else, or was it just me?
Just you. Well, not me. It came off smooth.
So. Okay, so all right.
Yeah, maybe there was one little step in the music. Where the music changed? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That music wasn't too bad. Some of the music is cringy, but anyway. Yep. I'm in a idle mood today, so
how are you feeling, Mike?
Feeling pretty goddamn good. Better than I should.
The gut's doing you right?
Oh yeah. Things are better. However, I did talk them into a Roto-Rooter up the butt in May, just to check, everything. It's kind of cool. He asked me, "Do you need any help getting, like out of a chair or to and from, a table?" And I said, "Well, it depends on how stoned I am."
How many mushrooms? Mushrooms are you going to prescribe me, Doc?
Right. He said that's fair. They ask you all these geriatric questions, like, do you have enough food and housing? And well, that's not a geriatric question, but they ask you all these questions when you're older, and some of them are so fucking insulting. It's just like, you have trouble standing up. Good.
Oh, that's good though. They're checking up on folks a little bit. So,
well, yeah, and I understand it, but it's just like, God, there were like 25 questions. It's like, stop already. You're just insulting me. It's like
I always ask them, don't you have the short form for I'm lucky. I don't have a lot of health issues. I don't take a bunch of medications. Yeah. Can't I have the short form that just says NA? I'm good to go, right? No, it's always right. I have to answer all the questions that don't apply, and isn't there just an NA box? But they do check. Even my dentist checks on me. Any health issues, any new meds, and everything, and any changes, how you feeling and stuff. So even they're asking on stuff. So,
well, I have some pretty severe intermittent high blood pressure problems when I watch Capturing Christianity.
Well, take a deep breath. Because we just happen to have a video from Cameron at Capturing Christianity.
Let me get my blood pressure cuff.
And he has 3 sincere questions for atheists.
Fair.
And welcome, James. Hello.
Hey there, guys. How are you?
Hey, James.
So since he had sincere questions for atheists, I figured I would ask a few other non-believers and maybe the expert on the internet, Mike, who has the answers in atheism, right?
Yeah,
so,
right. I got
and then we have James, who is always very insightful and always welcome here at the Captive Desk anytime.
Well, thank you very much. I like to think of myself as the community parrot. I hear wonderful people saying wonderful things, and I repeat them randomly.
Yeah.
And when you don't catch James on his channel, he does blog a lot, so check that out. And Mike over at Answers in Atheism, if for some reason you're not subscribed over there, get over there and do that. We're trying to get Mike up to 666 on the subs. I believe you picked up a couple more there, Mike. You're up into the 640s.
I think I'm 24 away from getting 666.
All right, we can do this for Mike. Yeah, then he's just gonna stay at 666. So spread the word. If you got a sock, whatever, help Mike out, and let's get him to 666. Okay.
I just want to point out that Ian Chen in Australia, his daughter signed up to my channel when his daughter was an embryo. And his daughter's been a member now for over 3 years. So,
Ian is one of my favorite Hovind debaters of all time.
he might debate Nephilim free. He's trying to set it up with Johnny. Yeah.
Well, AJ said he was done debating Hovind, Atheist Jr.
Finally.
But he's going to debate Hovind one more time.
Wait, what? Oh, shit.
Yep. After he swore it off, he just couldn't take it because, well, he says it was because of Grayson's video after his visit there. So
yeah,
he's got to do it one more time. So, and James, I know, has commented about Cameron at capturing Christianity before too. So I thought
capturing Griftianity.
Capturing Griftianity is what I named the video. Thinking of you, James.
Appreciate it.
So that is the name I have on this video in my file. So, so if you don't know who Cameron is, he runs a pretty big channel over at Capturing Christianity. Why? You would assume that he was going to have, some good stuff here. And so I thought, well, I'll check this out. And I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. We've already watched it, but we're going to watch it. And I broke it into the 3 questions, and we're going to answer them. And if you're in the chat, you want to answer along too, you're welcome. So let me fire this up here.
Hey, Dave.
Yep.
Before we start.
So I've got 3.
Go ahead.
Just want to say hi real quick to Jason, Jacob being here with us today, along with Coliseum 789. Azo 64 says I won't be repeating them, but they're wrong. I will be. That's what I do. John Hudson also in here with us today, and scrolling back up, we've got Sandals in here with us. Always great to see you, Sandals. YouTube punk. And who else we got? Who am I missing? Who am I missing?
John.
John Hudson.
John Hudson.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So let's go forward. I just want to say hi to everybody. Let them know that we notice them. You were seen and you were heard.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I know some folks were over watching Bree, and I waited till Bree was done because that's my Saturday mornings now is with Bree. So she was almost perfect on the timing. I think it was a couple minutes off. So about perfect timing. So that was great.
Awesome.
Okay. So Cameron here is ready to ask his questions here.
I can't wait.
Questions that I want to ask atheists, and these aren't gotcha questions. I sincerely want to know the answer to these questions.
Okay. We got sincereness, right? Sincere answers to these questions. So I'm expecting some good ones.
First question is, do you believe that God does not exist? So you kind of either have that belief or you don't. You either believe that God does not exist or you don't.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead, James.
So right away, he's narrowing it down. He's letting us know, look, he's not talking to lacktheists, right? He's not talking to deists or people that he might think of as agnostic. He's talking to people who have taken a positive position that God does definitely not exist. Now, I find that this isn't specific enough because is he talking about his God or is he talking about any God at all? So I guess maybe we'll find that as we go forward.
What do you think, Mike? Do you not believe in God?
I do not believe in God. I do not believe.
I thought it was rather a pointless question to ask an atheist if you do not believe in God.
Right.
And yes, we can pull in the philosophers and those that argue these things, Dillahunty on down the line, debates what an atheist is and isn't all the time. Go check out their videos. Make up your mind where you fall. There's also the Dawkins scale. I think it's 1 to 7 or something. Soft to hard atheist. But pretty much, generally, if you don't believe in God, you're an atheist, however you want to word it. So I'm going to say I was rather disappointed in asking atheists if they don't believe in God. I think he could have been a gimme.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anybody in the chat have a better answer? Doesn't look like it.
Right. So, to clarify where I am on this, now, Tux mentioned last night that he leans toward deism, actually, which did surprise me a bit. The thing is, though, I'm agnostic when it comes to the idea of whether or not the universe creator created the universe. I'm like, maybe, maybe not. So, by that definition, I'm what you call a atheist. But I am of the definite, strong, absolute opinion that nothing worthy of the title of God exists. Therefore, in that sense, I'm an absolute anti-theist. So really the question needs more nuance if he wants me to engage with it. But he's at least trying to kind of narrow the field about who he's directing the questions to.
Well, I love supernatural stuff. People that follow my channel and my other channel with trees knows that I like all that kind of stuff. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, you name it. I like all that stuff.
Well, that's good, though. I mean, Jesus was a cryptid.
Yeah, it would be neat. I'm not so closed-minded. Like I said, all the years of driving, I really just don't like driving in traffic anymore. People can't drive. It's just, I used to love to go for drives, when you just go for a drive. And now it's like, I don't want to go for a drive.
Yeah.
If I could just pop myself from here to the store, from here to the dentist, from here to the eye doctor, wherever I got to go, right? Sure. Right? Snap my fingers, wiggle your nose like Bewitched. Sure, why not? That would be great. But it just doesn't seem to happen.
Right.
So, yeah, sure. If there's a super being mind thing we can't even describe that lives outside of our universe, cool. I don't see it doing anything here, but go ahead, Mike.
We could talk about deism and the nature of deities a little bit after we get through this fella. It's kind of interesting what people think, but we should talk about it a little bit. But anyway, okay.
Sure.
Ahead.
Well, yeah, like I said, we can go philosophically and analytically and on, but I think most in the generalist terms, if you hear atheists, you're going to think they don't believe in God.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's kind of a gimme. Like I say,
yeah.
Especially for people who are not analytical and philosophical and everything else. The general public is just going to say, "Oh, an atheist doesn't believe in God." If you had it on a questionnaire or something, I think that's what they're going to write down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I crushed up and snorted a half a bottle of blood pressure medicine, so I'm ready. So
you got it all calmed down.
Oh yeah.
All right. So there's your first question done. Then so we've got atheists here. We've got people in the chat, and I don't see anybody disagreeing that an atheist doesn't believe in God. And let's hit number 2.
If you answered yes to that, then you're ready for the next question. The next question is, do you believe in evidentialism? Evidentialism is the view that your beliefs ought to be proportioned to the evidence. You shouldn't just believe something without evidence. Those are the first 2 questions.
Okay, well, James, go ahead.
So in the practical living world, I'm absolutely an evidentialist, as you would describe it. However, I've got a soft spot in my heart for Native American spiritualities. Right now, I don't think that their beliefs are literally true, but I've said it before, I'll say it again, that the popular idea of those beliefs is something that encourages respect for everyone and everything, and to see ourselves as part of a larger whole with nature. And so it's our duty to take care of nature so that it will take care of us. And so to me, I don't take a strong objection to the idea that they believe in, ancestor spirits or animal spirits, or that the sun or the sky, call to them or commune with them. Doesn't bother me at all. So when I say that I'm an evidentialist, I'm talking about the things that inform my morals, the things that inform my ethics and how I interact with other people. So this is the main objection I have to Christianity. Isn't so much that they believe in something that there's zero evidence for or bad evidence for. It's that the things that they believe in, despite the evidence, run contrary to the evidence and encourage an anti-ethical worldview, a problematic worldview that is highly consequential to individuals and societies. So that's where I'm at about that.
And it's very naive to think that every atheist has to believe in evidentialism. There are a lot of philosophers that basically have a problem with evidentialism. So I don't know where he pulled that out of his butt, but I think, the last question will show you that he doesn't really understand anything about philosophy or evidentialism, and how he has 224,000 subs. I fucking don't understand.
And I think Mike's hinting here that, we were expecting a little better, I think. And so far, I think it's been a little disappointing. And I made a video before addressing one of SJ's videos where she was asking, atheists have to answer these questions type things, or atheists can't answer these things and all this. And it's like, an atheist doesn't have to answer any of that stuff. An atheist does not have to be a cosmologist, a physicist, a biologist, a chemist, none of those things. They don't have to be a philosopher, nothing. They just have to say, I just generally, again, like to the first question, I just don't believe in God. So
an atheist doesn't even have to know that he's an atheist.
No.
And you can still be an atheist, It's just... I didn't know until I was maybe 13 or 14 years old that I was an atheist. I didn't know I never heard the word,
Nope.
Right.
I didn't either. Not till I got older. I always tell people, Carl Sagan on the Tonight Show was the cool guy talking about space and everything. Yeah. I had no idea about his philosophies or nothing like that.
Yeah, in the 60s, the word atheist wasn't thrown around a lot or at all that I can remember. I knew I understood my beliefs and stuff, but I didn't have the label, so I didn't know what it was. When they gave me a label, I'm like, oh my God, that's great. I needed that label.
Yeah.
Right. This is really a culture war polemic underneath it all. Because if you think about it, these channels do not make these kinds of content and say, I've got some 3 serious questions for deists out there, or for agnostic theists out there, or for Wiccans, right? It's always focused on atheists. And the idea is that if you're an atheist, you must have taken a stand against God, right? Therefore, you're an atheist, kind of a thing. And that's just not how atheism works at all. So again, the culture war polemic requires that he makes certain assumptions about his quote unquote enemy.
And I see Tux joined in, and Laurie Hayes, welcome.
Cameron,
good to Cameron too.
Yep,
good to see you. Yeah, so that is in one of those irritating arguments, that, oh, you're an atheist. Well, where'd the universe come from? I don't know. You don't know. Physicists don't know. These are one of the things people just don't know, and so they want to say. They've got the gotcha here where you got to say, well, I don't know. And it's like, well, you're an atheist. Don't you know everything? And it's like, nope.
Right. John Hudson makes a good point. Says, my daughter refuses to believe in God, but does not like being called an atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was 8 years old, my mom would go to church. She had this thing, right, where she would go to church, and she drug me with her. And at somewhere around 8 to 10 years old, I said, nope, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want to go anymore. And it's boring. But I put it on the same class. My mom also loved to go to Tupperware parties. and Tupperware, right? So I put it in the same category as mom's habit of going to Tupperware parties or mom's habit of believing, because I wasn't indoctrinated by my parents at all in Christianity. My mom, bless her, was really good at not indoctrinating me in any way. She just brought me to church and set me there and hoped that God would flow into Mikey, but it never happened.
Yeah, that's my story. We went to church because it was cultural. It was the social thing to do.
Yeah.
And
my mom
that was back in the day when Sunday mornings most everything was closed. Everybody went, even the little stores and everything, that they were all closed till like lunchtime because everybody went to church. But I just saw it as something cultural to do with the family, wholesome time, whatever you want to call it. And then, when you grow up, it's kind of like Santa Claus or something. You pass the torch,
Yeah. Does Tupperware still exist? I don't know if I believe in Tupperware.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I know there's a Tupperware world in Orlando, Florida, not far from Disney World, that we went to about 30 years ago, but I don't.
I have to look. I know I Rubbermaid's still around because I bought a Rubbermaid bowl, and they still sell all the lids and everything and stuff and that. So
I don't have any evidence that Tupperware exists, so I'm not sure if I believe in it.
My mom had a Tupperware party or two, so I'm an eyewitness for Ken Ham out there. I was there.
I was just wondering how badly I was dating myself here. Anyway, okay.
Okay, well, we agree.
Are we on
then.
Question?
Well, I just want to wrap it up. Yeah, so we agree then that yes, you should base any of your beliefs on at least some kind of evidence. Otherwise, it's kind of irrational, isn't it? Yeah. But if you want to, like Mike was saying, doesn't mean you have to get into these tight little definitions of an evidentialist or anything else. You can just not really care about any of that stuff and still be an atheist.
Right, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to get to number 3. So I'm not getting my hopes up, but here goes.
You answered yes to both of those. If you have the belief that God does not exist, and you also believe in evidentialism, you're ready for the third question. And the third question is, what is your evidence that justifies your belief that God does not exist?
Yeah. Yep.
James, go ahead.
Oh my God. It's he can't afford to raise the issue, really. As a Christian fundamentalist, evidence is his enemy. It's way more his enemy than atheism or culture wars or anything else. Evidence is what weighs against Christianity. If you tune into what the leading and the consensus scholars in the community are saying, the academics of the world, the people who are qualified, they'll tell you that the Hebrew religion borrowed all of its ideas from other older religions, that they were polytheists when they wrote their Bible, that the Bible's been edited since, that Moses was a mostly mythical figure, if either entirely mythical or at least mostly, that these stories are not literally true, right? Just again and again and again, we see that the evidence, the science, and the archaeology, and the textual criticism, and just everything that we would use for forensic science to evaluate the claims made in Bibles and by Christianity as a culture is just patently not true, right? So if he's asking about his God, and isn't that the most relevant question for him to be asking, then he already knows that there's a mountain of evidence that disproves his God. He's just hoping that you don't know that.
Yeah. Do you two believe that there's a teapot in orbit around the sun between Mars and Jupiter?
No. I don't suspect.
I don't know what's Elon sent up into space lately.
Well, there might be a Tesla up there, but not,
Might be
not
a Tesla up there.
But anyway, that's Russell's teapot, and it refers to the burden of proof, which Matt Dillahunty has done to death. But they really hate that burden of proof shit. It's like, no, but it isn't. When you talk about evidentialism, it is a thing. It's part of that philosophy. So this guy, I mean, he could have looked this shit up in a dictionary and it would have prevented this video, because it is that stupid. How can anybody, I mean, well, I don't know how can anybody be that ignorant and put a vid and have as many subscribers as he has? I mean, does he really believe what he said, what he put forth in that video?
I don't think he does.
No, you can't. He doesn't strike me as being that dim. But oh my god,
I was expecting like a joke. It was getting to the point. Yeah, he's just going to make a joke or something, And then he asked probably the lamest question ever: is disprove something I made up.
I was sitting there like a Labrador waiting for his dog biscuit, hoping that he was going to say something, to come up with something substantial.
Mm-hmm.
On the third question, it's like, okay, yeah, give me something, and it's like, nope.
Yeah, maybe the weakness was just a setup for, here it is, even though it wasn't a gotcha. This isn't a gotcha. This is sincere and everything, and it's like, okay, and then you might as well just throw in a gotcha. Or sorry, Cameron. I think we're disappointed.
Really?
With your sincerity. I think you don't know what sincerity means either, because I'm not seeing the sincerity in asking. So you're an atheist, so you don't believe in God. It's like, did he expect? Oh yeah, I believe in gods. I'm an atheist. That's why I believe in gods. I mean, did he really expect that kind of an answer?
But now, if you were at a political rally,
hello, Scott.
This God.
If you were at a political rally, imagine when he hit that third question. Imagine 200,000 of his subscribers applauding and yay, and go Cameron.
Right. And they are too in the comment section. I haven't gone there. Oh, but
that's what we're dealing with.
Amen.
Yeah.
Testify. Hallelujah.
Yep. Oh, Scott, good picture, Scott.
Yeah, I don't know where I got it from, but it's a cool picture.
You haven't updated your picture for a long time. I didn't realize that you were that thirsty down there in Texas.
Yeah, well, you're always thirsty in Texas.
Well, Scott, so let's catch you up then. Do you not believe in God?
I don't like the way that's phrased. Do you believe in God? No. Do I not believe in God? I guess yes. It depends on the sense in which you mean it. Because for me, there's no evidence, real evidence leading to a God. All the physical evidence points to not God. All the explanations for things, phenomena, do not support a God, but it supports a physical universe. So
that covers. Yeah, that covers question 1 and 2. Then you've got those covered. Yeah. Then pretty much, yeah, you don't believe in God generally, and you don't believe there's generally evidence for God, which is the first 2 questions. So how do you? Go ahead.
I said, because of 2, because I believe in evidence, or apportioning my belief to evidence, I don't have a belief, really, a positive belief in God. I could be wrong, but you're sure going to have to show me I'm wrong.
And then the third question that we're discussing is, what is your evidence that God doesn't exist?
Yeah. my
And
evidence that God doesn't exist is lack of evidence. There's not
right,
sufficient evidence to conclude that God exists.
Yeah, so evidentialism, to believe in something that is not just a given, not something that is powerfully before you, right? Like believing that humans should breathe or something like that. It requires. I mean, if you have made an exhaustive search for something, you still can't find any evidence of it, then that is a good reason, or that is justified not belief, right?
Yeah.
To not believe in it is justified if you search for it. And because of the amount of people that in the world that believe in Christianity, I can't speak for you three, but I have exhaustively thought about and tried to search for the possibility, right? I mean, because it's all around us culturally. In fact, 2 years ago, I walked out in the yard during a lightning storm and said, "Strike me dead if you're up there." Just for and it felt kind of creepy, but I did it, And look, I'm still here. What's that?
sure.
You could say, "Give me super speed powers if you're up there."
Yeah, I thought it would be funny. It's like and I've been in certain psychological states where I have I have just invited. If there's a spook out there, come to me now. I want to see you. I want some fucking evidence.
I did that. I did a summon in stream.
You did it, yeah.
I did a summon in stream, and I did a follow up with the Ouija board and everything, and nothing's flying around. My house isn't self-cleaning or anything.
Trash can lids, your trash can lids didn't levitate and rotate or anything.
Well, I wouldn't mind, if but isn't the gnomes that move stuff around at night, or the elves or whatever the fables are? Sure. Yeah. If you, what they do, they made the cobbler. They did the cobbler's work at night, didn't they? That's the story.
Yeah. The elves.
Yeah, sure. Wake up in the morning, house is all swept, dishes done, laundry's done. Hey, sure, that'd be great. Come on over, some little gnomes or something. I ain't got no problem with that.
Every morning when I wake up, the cat toys are in entirely different places. So I'm pretty sure there are gnomes. So,
and that's why I don't have a problem with most stories. Like some of your poltergeists or something are ornery, supposedly, but generally your ghost stories, they're not really bothering anybody. They're just hanging around an old farmhouse. Most of your cryptids seem to avoid people. They don't even want to be photographed, and that's why they're naturally blurry, so that you can't get good photographs of them. They're just not bothering anybody. And then you take it up to God. I just don't see God doing anything either. So it's all kind of in the same category. It's like, okay, fine, whatever, but I don't see it doing anything. It's not changing anything. Bigfoot or no Bigfoot, it doesn't seem to change anything. So there has to be something that is going to change our understanding of reality, that these things do exist. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to really matter which one they are.
It would be kind of cool if spooks existed, if they were around, make things a little more interesting, I think. Or if you could communicate with dead loved ones. I mean, my God, who the hell wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, I think Delahunty said something about, sure, I'd love to go to heaven and play cards with grandma. And I was like, that hit me, because that was some good times playing cards with grandma, Yeah, sure. Who wouldn't want to play cards with grandma again? We're not against that. We just don't see any evidence that it's going to happen. But if it does, hey, we'll see at the card table. We'll all play some Go Fish and get the pennies out, and
I'd be up there chasing my dad around with an axe.
Well, and so many of us, I had things left unsaid with my dad. I'd like to say, hey, I'm sorry we left things unsaid, and shake his hand. I don't. sure, these things are not beyond our hopes and dreams or whatever. We're just we're not taking it so far to make up these ridiculous stories and then wanting it forced upon other people. And James, I know, that's one of your big issues is, hey, I don't care what you're doing, but you're messing with other folks, folks that don't want nothing to do with it, folks that are definitely against a lot of their policies they're trying to push. Mm-hmm. What do you say, James?
I think it's interesting. They don't consider the weight of giving a bad witness to their idea of God, right? They don't care who they offend. They don't care what lives they ruin, right? But at the same time, they're going around telling each other, be the light in the world. Let people see how loving and virtuous and ethical and accountable we are as evidence that our religion is true. But then they turn around and they act horribly and consequentially in people's lives. And then they say, so what? That's part of our religion. I'm like, man, that's evidence against your religion right there. Let's not pretend that it isn't evidence against your religion. Spending all day at a God beach and not getting a God tan.
Yeah.
Mike, you said something earlier about there's all different kind of ways to go with the philosophies and everything, and I think that's one of the things that he's trying to kind of use against us. That you have to pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah. Kind of a clever little trick for his audience, that sort of thing. I mean, it wasn't for atheists at all.
It's not. It's really not for atheists.
I'm sincere. Golly, I am. Who didn't see through it? Maybe he doesn't know he's really not sincere. Maybe he doesn't know, or he hasn't listened to probably the countless people who have told him the way you're phrasing it isn't how it's not consistent with our cognition.
Right.
The cognitive landscape of atheism that we're in doesn't, most of us don't think in terms of, I don't believe in God. We think in terms of, basically, I don't believe yet because there's no evidence. There's a slight difference, but it's subtle. And they always want to just kind of word it in a tricky way, ostensibly to make us think, because we've never thought about this before.
Yeah, it's got 9,500 views.
Really? Holy shit.
Or I mean, thumbs ups.
Yeah.
9.5 thumbs ups and 15K comments. Yeah, so it's a big channel, and now granted, there are a lot of these little videos out and a lot of TikTokers and everything with some young folks that think they're full of themselves and they're making their first videos and they think they've got the gotchas because, they just heard some of these arguments for the first time from William Craig or Ken Ham or whoever it may be. And they're weak. And, but, okay. But this is a big channel. And I was expecting more. I'm always hopeful when they put these videos out that they're going to have something new. And I'm sorry, Cameron, but I think SJ's videos are better than this. And she doesn't have the following you do. So I'm disappointed.
I don't know. Unexamined beliefs. Jimmy Kimmel had a thing on I think it was last night, on called Debate and Switch, where he switched Trump's name with Biden's and asked a person, what do you think of Biden's idea of curing the thing with light rays, shining into you? And so I'm saying, oh, dementia, it's so horrible that Biden has. And he's and then the person, the interviewer says, oh wait, I got my nose switched up. It's Trump that said that. And what do you think of Trump saying that? And she says, well, it depends on the technology. So I mean, within like 1 minute, and she didn't even see that she was being, illustrated in this manner. It didn't even occur to her to look within and ask, what the hell am I saying? A normal person, you would think a normal person would have said, oh, I see what you're doing. This is Jimmy Kimmel, right? But no, she didn't see it at all. She just went seamlessly to defending the idea because it was by her guy instead of the other guy. Mm-hmm. So this my guy for Christians is this imaginary God dude they got going on with all these wonderful things that they can't wait for God to do to us when we all atheists die, because they're going to be up there just, oh boy, here comes another atheist. Let's roast them alive. Like, oh my God. What is wrong with human beings that we don't understand the first thing about what is wrong with human beings? I mean, we have meat brains, right? And they're going to screw up, right? But we should know that by now. We should, it's like, hey, wait a minute, I got to double check myself here, right?
That's why these arguments for the Bible writers or whatever your religious text is that applies to any of it, it's my guy. You can listen to these people. Look how great Trump is, okay? And I don't want to talk politics, how you vote or whatever. That's a politics channel. But I just want to talk about the way that you can totally ignore that he's not a good person, okay? He was off messing around while his wife was giving birth, I mean, come on, that's one of the greatest things. That's one of the greatest. Yeah. That's one of the greatest experiences in your life is to see your child born, right? I mean, what?
Yeah, that was one of the Kimmel questions was, and they made it look like Biden, paid off a porn star and and the person said, oh, that's horrible, and all that stuff. And then switch it to Trump. And they said, oh, my dad, he committed it. He ran out on my mom. And, I see people make mistakes. That was it. He completely switched his standard of.
And now you have this Jesus person who will grant there was a Jesus walking around because whether he was called Jesus or not, I don't really care. The facts of history pretty much lay it out. You've had people being prophets and preachers and, all the way up and down the line, priests, monks, popes. This thing has been around, okay? So I can grant that this guy was walking around and preaching and everything and stuff. It still doesn't change anything because that's their guy.
Yeah.
Are they going to write bad stories about their guy? No, they're going to write great stories about their guy. And not only was their guy so great, he could walk on water, right? That's how great he was.
Yeah, but he couldn't get a nail out.
Yeah, but in reality,
out of a board.
In reality, though, was he Donald Trump walking around just being awful and grabbing people and walking into dressing room? I mean, they're worried about LGBTQ folks in dressing rooms. They don't seem to worry about Trump walking into dressing rooms, right?
Right.
So, who's writing the story, right? You're writing about your guy, James. If you're writing a story, are you going to write how great your guy is?
If I'm trying to sell him, sure I am.
Yeah.
And I've seen the same thing happen with questionnaires to the public about quotes from the Bible versus quotes from the Quran. And so they'll walk up to a Christian community, right? And they'll read all these quotes from the Bible, but they'll tell the Christians these are quotes from the Quran. And the Christians will say, oh my gosh, that book is so evil. Yeah. And then they'll admit later, oh, wait, these are quotes from a Bible. And then all of a sudden, oh, those quotes aren't so bad. You got to take it in context.
Yeah, context.
Yeah,
I've seen those where they put the cover sleeve around the opposite book, or whoever's doing it. And yeah.
I wonder if you went back in history and if you could change the gender that God was perceived to be to female, if there would be as many Christians today as there are. Wouldn't that be an interesting experiment if you had a time machine? You could go back and modify just one variable, right? I wonder if a feminine God would have gotten the same following at that time.
Because
right?
part of the purpose of making him masculine was to validate the right to supremacy for men in their religious community.
Yeah,
So
and to fit in with the father thing, the tribal father leader thing, which, yeah, I mean, everybody, just a little bit more afraid of dad than, mom, But
right.
in my case, it was the opposite. I was actually, if I pissed my mom off, man, she was nobody. My dad would be like, meh, my mom, man, she was bad.
Well, you got Mr. Duke here too, and he's got that righteous beard that puts him right up there with God and Santa Claus and everything else. Darwin, and yeah. And that, well, we don't know what hat he has on today.
When I stroke it, it gives me wisdom. Stroke my beard anyway.
Oh, okay. I was confused for a second, Scott.
There we go.
Oh, that's it.
That's the hat I'm wearing. This hat used to have a patch on it that said Gramps, but that wore off because of my grandkids. But
you could definitely play the role of any of those gentlemen.
You look just like Charles Darwin now.
I do? Okay. Well, that's okay. I don't mind putting out Darwin vibes.
Yeah. Yep. It's a nice room you're in.
Yeah, this is well, I've only got like a living room, kitchen, bedroom setup. So this is essentially looking sideways over the living room.
Yeah, that's good. I needed to see that. I was, when I talked to you on the phone, I was imagining you're in this closet.
Yeah, it's pretty much. It's not a tiny house, but it's definitely a small house.
But it's nice.
But yeah, it's all I need, and I share property where I'm on the same property essentially with my son and his family, and so I have as much access as they'll let me have to my grandsons. I can't go over there at midnight and wake them up and play with them, but I get pretty good access to them.
They might come over and wake you up at midnight though to play, right?
I'm sure as they get older, they'll probably do that.
Tap 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 tap.
Scott, Thor is here. You're always complaining that I only talk about snack. The reason I only talk about snack is because he's a problem. Thor is not a problem.
It's the problem kids that get the most attention.
Problem kids get the most, yeah. Yep. Thor, except you're on my mouse.
Well, to close out the question though, let's take it the other way. James, what type of evidence would convince you of something supernatural? Would it just be a personal experience, or?
According to private chat, he stepped away.
Oh, did he step away? Okay.
But he just got back. Okay.
I was saying, James, I just wanted to wrap up the third sincere question. What kind of evidence do you think it would take for you to believe in something supernatural? We would have to have something in the first place to disprove or question or something. So what would happen to you and that you would have to sincerely question, that's a chin scratcher,
All right. To give a fair answer to this, I've never heard a coherent, meaningful definition to the word supernatural. They're always telling me, well, it means not natural. I'm like, well, so half the things in my shampoo bottle are supernatural. And it's like, it just doesn't mean anything, right? It's a nonsense word. So if, for example, that there were ghosts, let's say somebody convinced me that the ghosts of dead people that I knew before are alive. Like they walk through my wall, we have a conversation. I wouldn't believe in the supernatural. I would believe that this is a natural phenomenon. So I don't know. To convince me that ghosts are existing, I simply need to meet a ghost, right? To convince me that there's a giant guy in the sky, I simply need to see his hand or his face reaching down through the clouds. It's pretty simple. And
Yeah.
if such a being exists and wants me to know that they exist, all they have to do is meet the same standards of evidence that everything and everyone else in the world has to meet. If he can't do that, then he's incredibly inept. That's my answer.
About you, Mike?
If my mom came into my room and started talking to me, even if I could see through her, but we had a coherent conversation, that would be, belief in ghosts. If there was a God and a hand came down basically and rearranged ships on the earth or whatever, or if the stars, rearrange themselves occasionally to give me a good biblical passage, I'd believe in it. If every person I knew my entire life, and including myself, had miracles performed for them, some miraculous thing right after praying that you just had to pray and then you got something, like something valid, like, okay, we got a really good person on the block. He's got cancer. We really need him to be around. Let's pray for him. And then the next day his cancer's gone. And doctors are like, yep, it just totally disappeared. There were no natural means. Then I'd believe, yeah, okay, so the universe is stranger than I thought. And, it seems like there's this deity behind it, and I'm going to believe it. I mean, there's a lot of things that would make me believe in God. Basically, almost anything that they talk about that should happen, if any of that actually happened on a regular basis. I believe in just about anything that I have evidence for on a regular basis, right? So if you had evidence for God on a regular basis, every day there'd be the sports, there'd be the weather, there'd be, the national news, and then there'd be, what did God do today? Mm-hmm. There'd be that section, right? And for 10 minutes, they talk about the miracles that were performed. That would be a thing in our culture. And that would be sufficient, I think, for me to believe in something. But no, none of that shit exists. You look into every miracle and it just like it evaporates as soon as you look into it. It's like, okay, I just don't believe in stuff like that. Yeah, supernatural is some of the physics they talk about today, you could almost call that supernatural. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott.
What about you, Scott?
So you're asking essentially, what would it take for me to believe a God existed?
Just anything. I mean, just Lucky Charms, a palm reader, just anything that would be out of
supernatural,
anything otherworldly.
Otherworldly stuff. A ghost, yeah, you would have to have some way to see and record the phenomenon. It would have to, basically occur regularly and be confirmed credibly. If a scientist came and had objections to it, then those objections would have to be answered. But and it would have to feel and seem reasonable. I guess I just was redundant. As far as God, that's a tough one because, I believe the best outlook on life is to be skeptical, but adjusting your belief according to the evidence. So, apportioning your belief, whatever the fancy quoted term is, apportioning your belief to the evidence. So, the thing is, any event done by a god, even an appearance of an entity that we're tempted to label God, could be just, why don't we just call it an alien with higher technology than we have, or a highly what we would call biological capability, of changing its environment than we currently have. And if that entity decided to threaten us, threaten our lives, if we don't, give it some of our sustenance, some of our resources, if that alien creature or alien supposed creature asked us to kill our firstborn child, or our most valuable livestock item, our best bull, our best steer, or whatever, um, would it be? Why would we do that? Just out of fear of destruction? So, what is worship then? Is it a demand to love this entity? Is it? Well, you can't really do that, um, unless, of course, there were demonstrable ways in which that particular entity showed great care and overwhelming love for you to make you so disposed. But that's fantasy. I mean, when has anything like that ever existed in reality? We don't have a credible history of it. So yeah, this whole idea of a god seems like a fantasy. We don't really know what we're talking about when we're talking about worshiping a god, or um, how we would respond in the face of greater capabilities than we have, other than, we would surrender and probably just do what other people have done in the face of, Assyria or Babylon or the Egyptian armies or the Persians. We would cave in, pay money, and be oppressed. And that's all we're talking about, really, when it boils down to it. Who are we going to let oppress us? The person or the creature with the most power over us? Boy, that's a rosy picture of religion, isn't it?
Right.
And that's what it all boils down to.
The comment up here from Colossia, if we landed in ancient Egypt with a with a gunship, think we were gods. I was just thinking the same thing. I had my lighter in my hand. It wouldn't be too much to impress some people not too long ago that I had magic power just by flicking my Bic. And we just take these things for granted, but a simple little spark gas mechanism in this, and we have the power of the gods. We've got the fire, right in my hand, watch fire come out of my hand. So yeah, of course we could set ourselves up as gods. And if there is this more advanced being out there, if they showed up here, they would do things and we would be amazed. Even with our technology, things we probably couldn't even think of. But would that mean it's a god? No, it would be godlike. Yeah. But and then the other one I wanted, was it?
Jason said a vulgar display of power.
Yeah. I would assume I was tripping if that happened. Peter Atkins, he's one of my favorites. I love Peter Atkins when he does debates. He was asked, I think a couple of you touched on it, if the stars were moved around to say hello or something like that. And Peter Atkins said, well, I think I was losing my mind, right? Mm-hmm. So I think with the personal experience, it would go along with what Mike was saying, is that it would happen. It would have to be happening to other people too, to get like the a consensus type thing going, because anybody could claim a personal experience. But if these things are not just, if these things, like he said, are actually materializing in something where, somebody's cured or whatever, you walk through a wall, any of these things actually were happening and it correlated with these people's claims, then we would have something. But just one or the other on its own, it again, it could just be chalked up to you're having a hallucination, or you just saw Venus in some swamp gas.
Hallucinations are overrated. I mean, I have had really bad hallucinations, and I knew in some manner that I was having a hallucination very shortly after, right? So hallucinations aren't eidetic. They aren't so, like, if there's the stars rearranged themselves and you looked at it and you walked around and you walked away or you turned a different way, they would still be there. It would be very, very obvious to you that you weren't hallucinating, unless your brain was really extremely damaged. And so I don't think a hallucination is would be my go-to if I saw something like that. And then you could always go and ask just one other person, do you see that? Are you seeing that? You know, we've seen that in many movies and series, right? Where, you know, are you seeing what I'm seeing? You know, and it's like,
and so what happened with Paul on the road to Damascus? He was with other people. Yeah. Did you see that? No, we didn't see that. So right there, you know, you have to question something. Other people are with you. They're standing right next to you. They're traveling with you. They're not seeing it. I mean, there's kind of, you know, so that's where it may be real, but if it's only happening to this one person, it's easily to discount that they could be mistaken for 1,000,001 reasons, right?
Yeah.
You might also think about it in terms of the ratio of good deeds versus terrible deeds that this entity that we're wanting to call, you know, God might be willing to do. Right now, we seem to have religions where the Christians or maybe the Muslims, but we'll just pick on Christianity since that's the culture, the overwhelming culture that we're in. Seem to be okay with reports of miracles that nobody ever really can see, that if they're amazing, they happen to a friend of a friend of a friend who heard about something that was published in a devotional somewhere in England and talked about some old guy who saw this in Africa, and that was a miracle. Up and against, well, I don't want to go to hell when I die. So there we have a miracle that's just so many degrees of separation. You're never going to run across Kevin Bacon, you know. Just a lot of degrees of separation, and there's a little terrorism there. You know, plus my relatives might die early if I don't believe too, you know, because bad things will happen to unbelievers. And that's one level of good deeds versus bad deeds that aren't really supported. But what if we had, you know, 10 cities that suddenly they're contaminated lead pipes and their water system was just changed to have pure water with no lead? What if crops began to grow in 12 regions or 12 countries that were in a drought, and somebody had prayed for that, and um, 300 million sick people were just instantaneously healed. Plus, if you don't believe in me, you're going to go to hell. Would that be enough to believe in this God? Um, how many miracles would you be that can be, reasonably defined as a miracle? There's no scientific explanation for this, or maybe there is a scientific explanation, but they happened in such uh, correlation that you don't care. you know, um,
Yeah,
that there was a
if it was on mass, yeah, I say
yeah,
if all the kids in these children's wards just hopped up and started skipping and playing and running around and
yeah. Limbs
they're
grew back. How about a
yeah,
million limbs growing back?
no matter
Not
what their
everybody,
ailment, no matter their ailment, everything is just gone and they're happy little kids again, and give them a ball and they're all
because
set.
Christians are very uncomfortable with everybody getting a miracle.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that doesn't mean I would attribute it to a specific being or lucky
right.
charm or crystal or anything, but it would definitely say, well, there has to be something going on here. And if
And
it's
for how many years would that be good for? Like, okay, let's say
right,
we had this season of miracles, and people believed in this uh, being, um, in order to not go to hell. Um,
and it
so
turns out it was because they were drinking Coca-Cola with a new
yeah,
flavoring
yeah,
that was actually
but
from an herb or something. That's the miracle cure we've all been looking for in the Amazon jungle.
or that 50
Maybe.
years go by and more people start to have lead poisoning because nothing's being said about people investing in infrastructure, to where we don't really have any reason to think that things won't go bad again due to human neglect. So 50 years go by, no miracles have been performed. We still have the threat of hell, um, but nothing's really happened. Should we still believe? Is this
Right.
being worthy of devoting your life to, or um, sacrificing a firstborn child, or at least the firstborn of your livestock to?
Yeah,
Um,
what's the cost benefit
yeah.
to it all? Yeah, that's what I say.
Um,
If a God does exist, if the Christian God exists, and all these things are going on, like I say, with the children, and I'm not so much with adults and everything and stuff who've lived their lives. It always hits the hardest with the children. So if nothing can be done for the children, and you know the Christian songs, Jesus loves the little children and all this stuff, I'm
all
not
the
seeing
children
it.
of the world, but
Yeah,
let's
so
put saw blades in the rivers to keep them from coming across the.
yeah,
weren't children injured by those saw blades and the buoys in the
yeah.
river? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I'm
that's
just
So what would happen?
sidetrack, but
yeah. Go
What
ahead,
would
Mike.
happen if some terrorists from Yemen were attacking some commercial ship in the Red Sea, and the Red Sea parted, right? Just suddenly parted. What would happen? How many witnesses would there be? How many news channels would be out there? How many dead fish would there be? I mean, there would be just like that would be an immense thing. And if that happened, I'd be like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to church on Sunday, maybe just in case. but I'd have trouble figuring out which church to go to. But I'd try my best.
Yeah, there is.
But I mean, there's just a lot of things that would make us believe, and they have none of those things available to us. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any atheists. We're reasonable people.
Mhm.
I wouldn't go to an alien race right away. I just, I'd consider that I'd been wrong all my life. There's nothing wrong with, being wrong.
yeah.
We've been going a little bit over an hour, and I know Mike has a cutoff of about an hour.
I expire.
Let's go back around here. James has something he has on the share here, and James, why don't you talk about what you're sharing, and then give your final thoughts on the capturing Grifchianity.
All right, yeah, real quick. This page that I'm showing here is the Bible commentaries for Romans 1:20, which is quite often what people like Cameron Mattuzzi will cite, that people are without excuse to not believe in God, right? Now, here in the commentary, they're talking about why they believe in God. And one of their primary reasons was they looked around at nature itself and saw nature as entirely beneficiary to people, right? Beneficence is the word that they use. Now, if we look over here at the definition of beneficence, it's defined as an act of charity, mercy, or kindness with a strong connotation of doing good to others, including moral obligation. So basically, back when this was written, back when these Bible passages were written and people were developing these ideas, they didn't know about microorganisms and parasites and arsenic in the water and so many other things. So whenever there was disease, whether it was mental health issues or whether it was physical disease, cancers, you name it, they attributed that to demonic activities. So you were being tested or you were suffering the consequences of not being spiritual enough, things like that. Therefore, when they looked at nature, they only saw the good. They didn't know the bad stuff was in there. They didn't have eyes even for what bad stuff was there. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there are predatory animals in nature, right? And so their excuse for that was, oh, well, sin somehow affected the animal kingdom, and that's how we got predatory animals. It's a ridiculous notion. But in any event, if these same men, when they were looking at the trees and looking at the water and looking at everything else, had known about all these billions of little monster organisms whose entire life cycle is all about destroying, then I don't think they would have been quite so impressed, right? So what looked at like evidence to those people is evidence based on an incomplete view or understanding of nature, right? In other words, it was based on ignorance. And I think that that's important for us today because Christians are still trying, now that Christians have no excuse, now that they know about all the arsenic that's in the water, the parasites and the microorganisms, the flesh-eating bacteria, they try not to talk about it because they know that they can't find a way to make it fit with their narrative. I remember when I asked Sal Cordova about this in his own channel, he admitted that it doesn't fit with his narrative and he doesn't have a way to fit it into his narrative. And so they just try to distract us away from that. So this idea that was put forth in Romans 1:20, that people are without excuse, was based on a dramatically incomplete understanding about the world that we're in. And so they had an excuse for scientific ignorance, but we today don't. So it's actually the Christians who are without excuse for the obviousness of how factually incorrect, how absolutely woefully uninformed the religious view is, and they just don't want to come to terms with it. That's
It's kind of a lazy thing to point to a book and say, "Ha, this book from a guy who wasn't a scientist thousands of or hundreds of years ago, he says you're without excuse." And it's like, well, so what? I've got all these, we've grown so much in knowledge that that's ridiculous. Why are you pointing to an old book?
Right. Right. My book says if you don't believe my book, then you're a big dummy. Isn't a good argument for why we should believe the book.
Well, yeah, the classic meme where one religion's holding up a book and the other religion's holding up a book and they're each telling each other, I have a book.
Right.
Okay, you each have a book. That's why I often say, I often say the best debates I enjoy watching are apologists debating each other from different religions, because it's a challenge to have a good argument, but call it a good argument, when they're trying to, basically just say, I have a book. Well, I have a book too. Those arguments are, I'm rubber, you're glue, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mike, what do you have closing thoughts on these three questions that just blew our minds from the Grifchianity channel?
Yeah, he should look up evidentialism and figure out what the arguments for and against it are, and then look up what evidentialism itself implies that you should believe. That's one thing. And as far as God is concerned, I'm at a point in my life where I don't give a shit what I believe in next. And if somebody's got some real evidence or something that, you know, is viable, I mean, I'm all for it. I don't care. I have absolutely zero attachment to any of my beliefs. I happen to be a hard atheist, a strict naturalist, and a scientismatist. That's my current belief, but I could give it all up. Scientismatist, scientism. Yeah. I'm one of the rare advocates that we can figure everything out with science, or at least we can really learn a lot from science on any subject. Even looking at a beautiful painting or a sunset or whatever can teach us, and science can help us with that. But anyway, so but I have no attachment.
Yeah.
And so they're bullshit that, you know, oh, I just want to sin. I'm too fucking old and tired to sin. And nothing. Right. I mean, unless they're talking about, you know, cheesecake, you know, French apple cheesecake.
Yeah,
if that's a sin.
Crazy ideas about us sitting around snorting coke off of hookers.
Right. Like, yeah. We're not all Trump. We're not all presidential candidates.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a good 8 hours sleep every night. That's tough.
Right. Yeah, that's a goal. Yeah. There you go. Anyway, he embarrassed himself badly, and he didn't give a shit, does he? He does not give a shit.
No, he's pandering to his uninformed audience.
Yep.
Well, I'd say quarter million subscribers.
Yeah. What the hell? I should come up with a grift. What could it be?
Scott, you have any closing thoughts?
Well, as far as Cameron, is it Cameron Bartuzzi?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I wanted to say Carmen for some reason, but Cameron Bartuzzi.
Close enough.
I don't know. None of the reaction atheist channels that used to do him, that I used to watch, seem to be doing him anymore, following him. So I'm thinking his product has reached the end of its product cycle, and he probably doesn't realize it. And he does have, you know, a quarter of a million, you said, quarter of a million followers,
something like that.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, but if he wants to go to that next level, he's going to have to find something else to do to vamp up his product, a new product line, or a new gizmo for his current product. Who knows? The questions were nothing new, did not make me perspire intellectually or emotionally. I would also wish that he had this kind of nuance to him, where he could accept an answer of, well, it depends on the context in which you're discussing things. If you're just, you know, in a relaxed situation here, when you're out on the porch having, you know, lemonades or beers or whatever with buddies, you know, I could say I believe God does not exist. But in a more formalized, regimented discussion, I don't say that. I say I don't believe there's enough evidence to conclude that God exists. I believe in other things, you know, usually physical type explanations win the day, and you don't need God as an explanation for anything, and I certainly don't feel a presence of God. What other people say they feel as a presence of God, I feel as an emotional high, and you know, just a sense of love and oneness in this world. But I don't see it as an experience of God. So um, that's more than just a couple of bumper stickers of explanation, but that's what I think about Cameron Bartuzzi, and then the arguments he brought. questions you raised.
Yeah, brilliant points. If you need a church community to tell you how to interpret things that you're seeing in life, then probably it's just a church community. It's not, there's no really good way to connect those ideas to a God unless somebody tells you to.
And I'll tell you, nothing brings me quote unquote closer to God than when a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old boy climb on top of me like I'm a mountain and wrestle to get access to my Apple Watch, because they want to play with my Apple Watch.
That's
there's just nothing.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah. That.
I can understand how people can feel close to God being in their family. But I think the explanation has to do with certain hormones that our body produces when we feel joy, when we feel both community and family at the same time. My gosh, that's a double whammy. So
you should highlight Jason Jacoby's second to last comment. I hope.
Yeah, Jason's making some good comments.
Yeah. I hope the fundamentalists have an empathetic awakening.
That would be great.
That'd be great. An attack of conscience, as it were.
Yeah.
And I love the boomstick comment, too. That's a great movie. This is my boomstick. Shop smart. Shop S-smart.
Hello, Stephanie. Thank you for joining us.
Stephanie. Hey, hello, Stephanie. Yeah, so I was disappointed. Like I say, I asked my son. He's been on my channel a couple of times helping me out. I asked him. He gave me the face palm, and he's not an in-depth religious scholar or anything or whatever. And he's like, atheist doesn't believe in God. And then the third question, and it's like, well, that's dragging in the garage. And it's like, I'm impressed he knows the dragon in the garage. And it's like, well, how am I going to disprove your dragon in the garage? You have to present something to disprove. And, that's what science does. Just because somebody said, hey, I have the answer to XYZ, if it can't be replicated, then, there was something wrong with your results. So you have to present something, Cameron. You just can't, what is the meme? There's an empty countertop and it says, see the red cup on that countertop? And there's no red cup on the countertop. Then, prove that red cup isn't on the countertop. Well, you have to start with something. You have to have something in the evidence bag and to examine at least a new argument. We
should start a Russell Teapotarian cult. We believe in Russell's teapot orbiting between Mars and Jupiter. Go ahead and prove me wrong.
Yeah,
and I will debunk you. I will debunk you every time you send a probe up there. You don't find a teapot. It's like, well, it wasn't in that particular spot. You got to look again.
You throw the classic back at them. Well, how did you disprove all the other gods? They don't have an answer for that. Those are just false gods, and it's
My answer would be that the government back in the 60s sent moon rockets around and they shot Russell's teapot.
Yeah.
So that's why nobody can find it. They went into space, but they didn't land on the moon. They shot Russell's teapot and shattered it.
Yep.
I often use Bigfoot. I said to somebody one day, no, Bigfoot did it, and I got the answer back. It's like, no, Bigfoot's a primate. It doesn't have magical powers and all this. And I was like, how did you determine that?
Right.
You totally missed the point, right? You can't determine these things. I can say
that really discriminates against magic primates.
Yeah, Bigfoot is an interdimensional, shape-shifting alien that travels around in orange orbs. Disprove it. Well, it's ridiculous, Cameron. And I was disappointed. I said, I thought he was either setting up with this is just okay, redundant. Yeah, okay, an atheist doesn't believe, and then it was going to be this really good one, or it was just setting up like a joke. I thought it was going to be a joke at the end because it was just, the first two were just so terrible, and then I had to get it off my chest, and luckily Mike had plenty of blood pressure medicine on hand, and
Yep.
James was rested and feeling better today, and we always like to hear that. And Mr. Duke dropped by to help in a little bit because he was addressing it to atheists, and it's always nice to not just have me sitting here saying, well, this is what I think, and because then again, that's not atheists. So we got a bunch of non-believers here.
I would have been here sooner, but the your text message said it was starting at like 1:40, so I went and took a nap, and then I woke up and I was gonna log in early, so I'd be there when it started, and y'all were already going.
The late Scott Duke.
Scott Duke, yes.
You even had a few minutes to spare because I was saying Bree was almost perfect because I watched Bree and I was like, well, I about 3 hours would be wrapped up. So I gave it a couple 10 minutes to spare. And sure enough, she's saying this and that. And she blew a kiss. And I was like, wow, that's just about perfect. It just went a little bit over. So we were in sync there. So I'm sorry the cosmic waves didn't rattle your house a little bit better. But
well, that's okay. That's okay. I had a fun time. Thanks for letting me share my opinion.
You got caught right up real quick, I say, because the first two questions were easy to get caught up on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thank everybody for helping me out with this. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody in the chat. Thanks for everybody for stopping by. And any final thoughts, anybody?
Oh.
No, I think we pretty much covered it. Now, right after this, I'm going to be jumping over to Myth Vision to watch Dr. Jennifer Bird talk about her experiences with Christianity. If anybody wants to join me over there.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye all.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
And have a great day.
Okay.